Today's guest is rewriting the rules of Caribbean horror fiction. Jasmaine Payne hails from Guyana and is the recipient of the 25 Influential Women Leaders Award 2025. While Caribbean literature has long been celebrated for its magical realism and post-colonial narratives, Jasmaine boldly plants her flag in psychological thriller territory, a space where few Guyanese women have dared to tread. A storyteller who understands that the most terrifying monsters aren't always supernatural, but deeply, painfully human. She explores what happens when ambition becomes obsession, when the need for recognition consumes everything else. Her debut novel, Leech, has positioned her to be an emerging voice in thriller and horror, proving that Caribbean authors can master any genre they choose. TLC Tropical Literature Creators welcomes Jasmaine Payne to a conversation about creation, courage, and crafting suspense. Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Some of them you've heard of, but some of them you'll be hearing about very, very soon. Today we have with us the scholar of suspense, Jasmaine Payne. Jasmaine, if it is that you don't know, is the author of the book Leech. Jasmaine, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed. But before we get into things, I'd like to congratulate you on receiving your award for, correct me if I'm wrong, 25 Influential Women Leaders Award 2025.
Yes, awarded in May for my community service work. Thank you very much.
No, and I had to bring that up because I thought it was interesting because I think one of the themes of your book is persons being recognized. And here it is yourself, you're receiving an award for being recognized, and you're writing about characters seeking recognition. You see, I, I mean, uh,
That's a good connection. I did not
no,
think about that.
that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for because you see, when it is that we go through the things and we connect the dots, I think authors
Hmm.
themselves, I think unconsciously they're more insightful than they believe themselves to be. And here
Yeah,
it is, we're just seeing all the breadcrumbs and we're just following it to get to
so
where it
many
is that we need to be.
layers,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah, yeah. But let's just get into the thick of the thing. First off,
Yeah,
uh, the one of the main characters, Ariane,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
when I was going through the book, I think I came across a document where you said that Ariane shared similarities to yourself. You care to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So how I introduced Ariane, because initially she was just supposed to be like the vessel that Leech, quote unquote, possessed, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
but then I realized, one of the things you learn as you go across in the writing process is that you really have to be connected to your characters in some way. And what better way to connect to the main character than to put some of yourself in there, right? And so I decided, okay, let me think about what aspects that's going to take. And I decided to put my writing frustrations. I made her a writer. And then I said, there was a couple of frustrations I had with the writing community, what you would think of as gatekeepers or, getting recognition again for your work. And I
Mm.
was just a little frustrated. So I said, okay, let's see how I can probably use her as an outlet, but then also add that to her story. And it worked out well.
Yeah, we see, and I couldn't help but keeping that in the back of my mind as I kept on going through the book, and I'm trying to see the similarities between the two. But I'm glad that you're able to give some detail about that. Um,
Yeah,
let's talk about the title of the book first off, Leech. I mean,
Bleach.
how do you arrive at the title?
Well, if you think about it, the relationship itself between Leech and Ariane is very parasitic. And so it was fitting to call her tormentor a parasite, which is the leech, which latches on to you and kind of like sucks you dry if you allow it. So really and truly, that's what he's doing to her in the book, or supposedly doing to her in the book. So I just wanted to have like a little pun on the name and on the concept of having a parasitic relationship.
Okay, okay. And I think it's interesting in that one of the ways that you describe the relationship during the course of the book is that she transcribes his life or details about his life to put together a
Yeah.
novel. And I
Hmm.
think I think that's interesting. And here's why. I know that for some teachers, one of the ways that they teach students is through singing, through songs. So you have to learn, you have to hear the song, understand the song in some
Yeah.
instances, interpret the song before you can effectively relate what it is that you would have learned through the
Hmm.
process. So here it is now, Ariane is transcribing, but it isn't just a matter of transcription. She's in fact
Right.
she's reliving the torture. She is reliving his experience. So this is something that
Yes.
she didn't bargain for, but at the same time, she's experiencing it now. And
Hmm.
the more I thought about it, I'm thinking that that in itself is like a degree of torture because,
Yes.
yeah, that really got me because persons may think,
And it's Yeah, you're thinking about, so what happened is interesting because, it's there she is. She's saying, oh, nobody recognizes my writing. I haven't won anything. Everyone says, this is not good enough. And then this quote unquote bestseller drops into her lap, and
hmm,
she's not the one writing it. She's being tortured and being forced to get this stuff out. And then she gets famous for it, exactly what she's looking for. So it's, it's like, okay, you got exactly what you asked for. So now what's the problem?
yeah, I mean, it's just ironic. It's just ironic.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the irony of that relationship.
And I believe that the leech it just doesn't end with Ariane because I believe other persons, in particular Dr. Pressam. I mean, I don't want to give out
Mm.
too much details about the book because we still want persons to go out there to buy the book and to have
Yes.
an opinion about it. But
Yeah.
at first she tells Dr. Pressam, read the book if it is that, he thinks, that she isn't that she isn't in her right frame of mind. So he goes out and he starts to read the book. And the same
Hmm.
thing that, and he begins to have similar experiences that
Yeah.
leech
And then you're wondering, so he
mhm,
latches on. I mean, what
latches
else will
on.
a parasite do, right? If you go looking and the parasite will come, it'll attach itself to you. But so Dr. Pressam actually was a surprising development in the book in that he was not supposed to be as important as he ended up being. But, in the psychological thriller genre, there must be something psychological being dealt with. And so the more she divulged, more of what she went through with him, his
Mhm,
role became way more expansive because you realize, okay, somebody has to be investigating if this is true or if it's just, a figment of her imagination, if something he needs to diagnose her with, right? And that's what we try to do. We try to find the logic in these things when they seem like there is no explanation.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And I believe he offered that perspective during the course of the book. Very objective. He was like, okay, this doesn't seem right. This looks like, this particular illness, this
Yeah.
particular diagnosis. So he prescribes and he does, trying to be very objective about
He
what does
tries.
happen. So
He does a good. I don't know about you, but do you think he made a good effort in his attempts? Because he tried. He really did.
no, he did. And again, I don't want to give out too much about the book, but I mean,
I know.
when he's relating to her mom is like at first, but aren't you supposed to be the doctor? I mean, why are you
Hmm.
sounding like this? Because I mean, to her,
Exactly.
he is the voice of reason. So I mean, the thing is,
Exactly.
she is. I mean, Ariane could just, she could. I mean, forgive. She could flip out. She could flip. She could do whatever she wants. But you are the doctor. You're there to
Exactly.
help her get
You
better.
gotta stay stable.
So if you're not stable, then where we go? I mean,
Who do we trust?
what really going on here? What really going on here?
That's exactly. Yep, that's exactly it. Because now everybody's wondering like what's happening. The parents are wondering what's happening to my poor child. Like, where did we put her?
Yeah, if it is
Yeah.
that, who will, I mean, forget who will police the police, not the police, but who will, you get where I'm going with this. You get where I'm going with this.
Exactly, exactly. That's why probably her poor mother just was like, okay, maybe I just got to pray this away. So because
No, that's the only option because if the persons in charge responsible for mental health aren't don't seem to be mentally stable, I
they
mean,
were
what other?
not, yep,
Yeah, we're in a very dire position.
yes, yes.
Um, let's change the gears a little bit because we've spoken about Arya and we've touched on Dr. Pressam, but let's talk about John's first love, Ida. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it seems that even though,
Ida,
hmm, tell me,
Ida is a silent key. I will tell you that. And I guess I don't want to divulge too much, but I think there's definitely more to Ida's story. And so I just gave a little bit of a snippet just to
hmm,
make the Guyana connection because I refer to her as the Guyana connection because of course I'm Guyanese and I would want to have that connection to my story. And
hmm,
so Ida, he falls in love with her. Initially, fun fact, Ida was killed in a previous in a in a previous draft. I had Leach had killed her, but then I realized again, it's just some of the beauty of the novel writing process. When you get to the end and you realize, okay, there's some parts that don't truly connect, and so there was a connection that I needed to make, and I realized, okay, Ida couldn't die because we needed to find out how this Guyanese woman came in contact with this British villain,
Mm,
right? And so Ida was the connection. Ida she fled from John Leach after realizing that he was a monster and ended up in Guyana. And so years later, her descendant Ariane was born. And so there's that spiritual connection there that had to be made.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about this too is that what was I going to say? Even though I mean your intent was probably to kill her off in the earlys, etc., is the fact that you kept her alive, she was able to leave an indelible impression on John in the note that she would have left behind.
Yes.
Everyone
Mm-hmm.
persons were telling him that he wasn't readily accepted by his peers. His family didn't
Yes.
seem to really accepting, etc. But here comes this woman who initially it seems that she really, from your writings, it seemed that they really did have like a fondness for each other, and
Yes.
maybe even
She did understand him in a way because he was shunned by everyone else. But she too has comes from a background of being shunned, right?
mhm,
So I
mhm,
think in that way they were able to find, commonality, and they were able to just stay in the same space. And she, in her own simple understanding, like he said, understood him better than anyone else in his life.
mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, we spoke about how transcribing might be a form of like, you could say torture in herself because Ariana had to relive the experiences of John. Do you think that by
Yeah.
Ida being around him, that was a form of torture as well? Because it didn't seem that she agreed with what was happening. She just felt anxiety, she felt unease to the point where she
Yes.
had to get out of it. Was that
Mm-hmm.
the case as well?
She was definitely tortured because this person, Leach, she saw Leach as her way out.
Hmm.
When they met, she was basically begging. Well, not really begging, but she was in the marketplace selling, which is a really dire place if you think about the time and what was happening in London in the 1800s, about 1880.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so he kind of saved her from a life that was not the most desirable. And, being a colored woman, of course, that came with its own discrimination, but, he kind of protected her from that in his house, and she was really grateful. But then he turns out to be darker than, the evil she was running from, which was, disappointing for her. So she
Yeah,
had to go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting
You're making
development.
me unravel all these things. Like I never really addressed, these underlying messages, but
I told
thank you
you.
very
I
much.
told you I was coming for you. We had this conversation. You said, Kevin, bring the questions.
You did.
I told you I was coming for you. I told you. I
You
told you.
did. But
Yes.
I love the questions. I really do because it's really making me go back. I mean, across the 11 years of like research and putting everything together, it's making me realize, okay, all right, I did my homework. Great.
But we're not done yet. We have more questions,
All
that
right.
you're here
All
to
right.
answer
All right.
questions. I mean,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
yeah, we're here to talk a little bit about Bertram because, he's John's manservant and he seemed to be
Bertram. Yes.
taking care of him since he was 17 years old. He's been, what we
Yes.
I consider his ride or die. He's been there from the
Yeah. Kind of like his father figure.
But
Yeah.
that
So
changes. That changes, and
it
yeah,
does.
it does change, and I want to ask her. I remember something when I was reading about this. Um,
Hmm.
I can't remember where I heard this term from. A term called situational ethics, where we may have morals, we may choose to do certain things at certain times when the situation permits, but when things
Yeah.
change, or morals change or values change, and we may find ourselves making questionable choices or decisions. And
Yeah.
when I was reading about Bertram, I was thinking about this because initially there is a situation that happens. I mean, you could talk about it. I don't want to give all the details, give all the spoilers as yet, because like I said, I want people to
Yeah.
read the book. But something
Right.
does happen, and you could say it's the beginning. Maybe stuff was unraveling before. but I would
Mm-hmm.
call it a defining moment where Bertrand makes a decision and he is like, here's what, we got to do this. And John is like,
Yeah.
no, we're not going to do this. And in fact, we're
Mm.
going to do this my way. And if it is we don't do this my way, I'm not only going to come after you, I'm going to come after your family
Right.
as well. And
Mm-hmm.
Bertrand makes the decision to comply, to,
Yeah.
shelve his morals and stuff and do what he's
Yeah.
told. So I,
Yeah.
I think it was an interesting situation, not just because of the decision that he made, but I'm not too sure
Yeah.
exactly if it's like a sign of the times where it is that he sees that this man has so much power, maybe not just
Mm.
psychologically, but rather
Yeah.
socially, where he can do
Yes.
these things to his family and pretty much
Yeah.
get away with it. Was that the case?
So Bertram's situation is very much similar to Ida's, except Bertram is not, colored. Bertram is white, but Bertram is coming from a poor class of whites. And, when he heard of Leach's parents' death, he kind of rushes to the young man who's going to be the heir because, the word flies. So the idea at that time is that if you don't have a proper job or if you're in the lower class, the best thing for you to do is to get into a good household with a good master, and they'll take care of you, the servants. And so
Mm,
Bertram kind of took that opportunity, and because it took care of his family, I think he was more attached to the benefits of being there than saying, okay, this was right or wrong. But I think it also turned out Bertram ended up being his enabler, Leach's enabler,
mm.
simply because he kind of had to he turned a blind eye. He didn't tell anyone what was happening, and he just ended up being, the henchman, and paying for it. So it is what it is. It's Bertram kind of made Leach into who he is, if you think about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, do we even think that maybe Butron was like, I don't even want to say that he endured a degree of torture as well, having to be complicit in it because
He
obviously
did. Yeah.
he didn't want to, but he
Yeah.
complied because he's thinking about his
Yeah.
family, etc. So he's put in
Yeah.
a position.
Yeah, and because of that, he ends up contributing to, the outcome of how bad Leach becomes because he could have intervened in some way, but he just felt like he didn't have the choice, because his family, he was under threat. His family was under threat. His livelihood was under threat. So, and that was not a lot of that wasn't a time where you had a lot of opportunities. So, Bertram just basically said, "Okay, what the heck? I'll just stay."
Okay.
It is what it
I
is.
mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I like about your writing is the attention to detail. I myself, I am not a medical doctor. I don't really
Mm.
subscribe to medical journals. But when it is that I'm going
Yeah.
through the book, Leach, when he describes his processes, when he talks about the research that he's doing, he goes into detail like vertebrae and
Yeah.
cerebellum. And I am like, but wait, what kind of research did this woman do? Is she, I mean, I know that you have a background in doing a lot of things, but is it that you're a medical practitioner of some sort? Did
I
you
have zero
transcribe or
experience.
something? But
I have zero medical experience, but I keep hearing about how accurate it is, and I'm just happy. I think my strength though is in the task of researching.
Mhm.
And I learned to perfect that task or to get it close to perfection when I was doing my master's, because when you're doing your master's, it's all research, right? So I learned how to, a lot of those details came into being, at the very end of the novel, because when you write your first draft, it's skeletal and it's messy, as writers may want to describe it. It's
Yeah.
basically, bare bones of beginning, middle, end, and then you have to fix all the plot holes. So at the end of it, I realized, okay, if this man is studying all of this and he's so versed in science and he's killing these people and he's getting away with it, we need to see that knowledge, right? And so I had to go searching for those bits to understand. So I basically had to study the way John Leach was studying, and I
Mhm.
had to, I pulled out some of the things that I learned, and I just put it in there because and made it applicable to the time. So it was really fun doing that, and then you had to double check and triple check just to make sure, is this accurate? Is this what he's gonna find if he does this? And once you get that okay, you'll be like, okay, great, it stays.
No, I mean the level of detail and research that you have to put in these things because there's probably like a
Yeah.
medical doctor somewhere thinking, aha, you know what? You know, it's right. I
I
couldn't.
actually think I'm afraid of the opposite, that there is a medical doctor that's going to come out and be like, this is not true. But you know what? I'm that and a psychologist. So a medical doctor and a psychologist, I am absolutely terrified that somebody's going to come and say that is not true. But you know what? That's the fun of fiction. You know, you
Fiction.
try your best and at least you ground it in something. And I know that at the very least it's if it's not correct, it's at the very least it's debatable. So
Yeah. That makes for
yeah.
good reading. So I mean, if it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, we're going to be reading a book one way or the other. So if it's fact to debate whether it's factual, it's not, or whatever, we'll be reading it
It,
one way or the other.
exactly. It's something to talk about. There you go.
One of the things that stands out to me is Leech's his drive to be accepted, because during the course of the book,
Yeah.
we see it's a recurring theme. He tries to be
Yeah.
I mean, he's an intelligent individual, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But he seeks acceptance from his father, and later
Mm,
on in life, he goes on to submit
yeah.
medical journals, and he's seeking acceptance
Yeah.
from these persons as well. And when he
Yeah.
doesn't receive this acceptance, that's when things start to change. That's when
Mhm.
he starts to become a different individual. Is this some sort of cautionary tale or something? Is it that for us to be as individuals, that we shouldn't seek acceptance from external sources, but rather work on being accepted from ourselves? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, Leach's obsession with recognition and just subsequently everyone else's, because in a way, everyone is seeking some sort of fame. Ariane gets it, but not in the way that she wants.
Mm,
Leach ends up getting it in the way that he wants, but then he's not, he's not alive.
mm,
So, and then Dr. Pressum, because he believes that once he solves this case, he's going to be able to reconcile with his wife. He'll get all of this fame from the case, although he initially started it reluctantly. Everybody just has this goal and they're trying to achieve it at the end of by the end of the novel. So it's very much the underlying theme, or the main underlying theme, and it comes from my own observation of just how much we are obsessed with being the next viral sensation. We're all on this stage of social media, and at this point there are people who are practically gonna do anything for it. And so I wanted to experiment with what that looks like across the different timelines. And I realized that, it's a human condition.
mhm,
It's just something we naturally do, because when I looked into, the 1800s, as you know, it was very much class related. The
mm,
higher you were up in society, the more you would be invited to events, the more you would be respected, the more money you would make, obviously. And so John grew up seeing that fame that his father already had as a doctor, and he wanted to follow in those footsteps. But his father said, no, it's too much of a dark profession, and he knew why. So he tried
mm.
to keep his son away from that. And I think that initial rejection, if his father was probably a bit more open with him as to why he didn't want him to go down that road, I think probably Leach may have been a bit more receptive to taking another path. But the rejection, he didn't communicate why to his son, and that initial rejection just never left Leach, and it just festered and ended up growing into just the worst possible extreme. Yeah.
No, I mean, you just said something, and it's something I didn't consider until you just said it there.
Yeah.
There's this typical, you know what, I'm just going to say you could probably correct me if I'm wrong. In the Caribbean, there's this running theme that, sometimes men, we're just not good at communicating that,
Yeah.
traditionally we're good providers. We could
Hmm.
go do the work, bring the money home, and, that
Yes.
that would be enough. But when it comes to communicating with our children, etc., that is where we
Yeah.
could do a lot more working. And here it is, you're
Yes.
telling me that this guy all the way in England is having problems communicating with his son. So I'm wondering if it's
Yeah.
just like a Caribbean man thing, or if it's just a man thing in particular. So.
I think it's just a man thing. And I don't want to say that, as the woman writing about the men, but I think
Mm,
it's just it was more uh I guess, a hierarchy thing in that time, in that the
Mm-hmm.
man was not questioned. He wasn't supposed to be questioned in the home. He was the provider, and especially in that time, the women, the children really just had to listen to what they said. So Robert Leach, his father, really was just trying to protect his family. So he moved them out of London, which at the time was dealing with the Black Death and consumption, and the Thames being over flooded with waste. So it wasn't a nice place, and he was paranoid. But more than that, he was being affected by his own profession, and he was like, I don't want any of this for my family. So he had good intentions, the best of intentions, and he was just trying to deal with his own skeletons. And then,
Mm-hmm.
just as he was just too preoccupied in that, and his son just missed all of that because he wasn't able to communicate it well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Um, no, I mean we're talking about fathers and sons, but let's just change gears again. Let's go to
Yeah.
Ariane and to John because um I think that in a lot of ways, as much as he may be the parasite, maybe
Hmm.
they're kindred spirits in a lot of ways because as you
Yeah.
identified, she herself is seeking ambition. Well, she's ambitious, seeking recognition,
Hmm.
and he himself
Yeah.
from the scientific community as well. Although, different fields, they find
Hmm.
themselves having a lot in common. Do you think on
Yeah.
some level that she accepts this and maybe she recognizes that this is one of the things that they have in common and why the relationship continues, that it isn't solely because of, the parasitic relationship or the relationship that he had with her ancestor, that it's just that they have this in common as well?
Yeah, I think she definitely saw some of that in him, but I don't think she got a chance to properly assess Leach before he pretty much took her over. So
Hmm.
I think even if she wanted to initially, she didn't get a chance. It was unfortunate because, the decision was kind of made for her. But initially, I think that there was some attraction. Like she wanted to like this man, and just saw him as this eccentric person that she could work with and could give her fame. But she was also attracted to him, I think. But I don't think she got a lot of chance to. It probably ended up that way, but I don't think
Hmm.
she even got a lot of chance or a lot of say in the relationship because he just controlled that almost immediately. The moment she said no, he was just like, okay, well, it's now over to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's basically giving her, he's like, I'll give you a chance to say yes, but you don't really have a choice.
Way, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the themes, and when I was getting some information about the book, one of the themes that you mentioned of the book is voices unheard finally being heard.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm wondering if one of the voices unheard being actually heard right now is that of the title character, John, because here it
Yeah.
is, no one knew his story, but he is intent on persons hearing his story, which is kind of
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe. I'm not too sure to say if it's kind of messed up, but at the same time, it's a theme that you can't ignore.
Yeah, I think so. How I intended it is initially he wanted just the fame in his real life, right? He wanted to be the next Robert Leach, like his dad,
Hmm.
and he didn't get that. So when he came back to modern day, initially I think he wanted to continue and probably get that fame somehow, and that didn't. But he didn't know what was happening until he realized that he was given this false name, or he in his fame was attached to the false name that he hated. So he was like, okay, no, we gotta make this, we gotta correct this, right? I think that's where his desperation to tell his own story came about because he realized that the story that was being told, like people barely knew who he was, and what they knew was of this failed man, right? This
Hmm.
failed serial killer, and all he did was kill people, and he was called Halfpenny, right? So like he was a mockery. So he did not like that at all.
No, I think it's interesting how you were able to elaborate on that because again, one of the other themes that you would have mentioned was
Hmm.
like sort of something along the lines of like an epic quest because again, in a kind of
Yeah.
really warped kind of way, he's seeing that his
Hmm.
quest is noble to clear his name and to have persons hear his story. So
He
it's
really does.
yeah, it's
He's really convinced that, everything he did is to the value of science. So yeah, some people had to die, but But it's all in the name of
Mm.
experimentation.
But Um, something else that came up, and I think it's like a running theme in the book. I know that sure persons want to be remembered, persons want to be recognized as well. But I
Mhm.
realize that it's a running theme in the running theme of the book of ambition. We have obviously
Yes.
John is ambitious. When we encounter Iron for the first time, she's ambitious.
Hmm.
When we encounter
Yeah.
Dr. Pressum for the first time, he's ambitious. And when we
Yeah.
encounter his senior Morvina, she's also described as
Yes.
being ambitious as well. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering if, again, in your writings, if it is that one of the things that you want to point out that ambition, as much as it is good for persons to be ambitious, sorry, is there a point where ambition becomes toxic, where it becomes, there has to be some sort of cutoff point where you have to recognize, here's what, I
Yeah.
mean, we stop here. It's good, but we need to pump
Exactly.
the brakes here.
You have to know where to stop because we see what happens with Robert Leach. He was the first example of ambition gone wrong. And then we see it with Leach. We see it with Ariane. She makes the wrong decision. And then Dr. Pressum continues to make wrong decisions. Bertram, well, I don't know if we can call Bertram ambitious. Bertram was just trying to survive.
Just trying to live, man.
But but definitely, knowing where to like not cross the line or knowing where the line stops, is it's a cautionary tale for that because sometimes we can get blinded by just the goals that we're trying to achieve and try to do so at any cost.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, I would just want to let's just step away from the book just a little because I mean, not that it's
Sure.
not interesting, but I mean, there's so much that we could get into if it is that we have the time. But I know that
Hmm.
some of our listeners aren't just readers, but they're also fellow authors. And one of the things that
Yeah.
I myself was observing during your social media campaign of promoting the book, it was just very
Mhm.
elaborate. It was
Yeah.
regal. There was dressing like 18th century characters. There was
For the
regular
launch, yeah.
yeah, I mean, there was regular promotion. There were regular like posts on, persons to get ready for Leach when Leach came,
Yeah.
Leach was out, and then after Leach, what
Yeah.
persons thinking about Leach because it seems that your marketing strategy was very comprehensive and consistent. Do you have
Yeah.
any advice to give to persons, authors in particular, who are in the process of writing and who have intentions of publishing their books as well in terms of marketing?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the first thing I would like to tell authors is that we have to remember that the art is one thing. The art is one aspect of writing a book, but then there's also the business of the art. And
Hmm.
some people might just say, I'm writing this book and I hope a couple people read it. That's where I started as well. But then I realized you're writing a book and you're publishing it, but I'm sure that you're just not publishing it for it to not be read. So
Hmm.
if you want to do that, you have to understand, especially with self-publishing, there's a strong marketing aspect that has to be part of that process. So my background is actually in marketing for my 9 to 5. So I understood what was needed from the beginning. And although it's not in my comfort zone, I had to get out of it because I wanted the book in my country, I wanted it to send a message that, okay, we're not hearing a lot from our Guyanese authors, so we need to come out and we need to come out big. And so I had to get over a lot of my own discomforts. And one of the ways that I did that, I couldn't do the marketing myself, even though I know exactly what it's supposed to look like. I couldn't do it myself. So I had to reach out to a really close friend. So if you have people that know how it's supposed to look, work with them, get a marketing team. My marketing team was excellent. Like I said, it's a very close friend. She understood me, she understood my vision, and she knew what it was supposed to look like. And together we just came up with the best strategy, to push the book beginning 3 months ahead, which is usually a good time, and then continuing on after the launch. So, and that has helped to grow my audience. That has helped with sales. The book sold out in the first week, more than 150 copies. So it was very, very, very good for a self-published book. So it's definitely understand the necessity for marketing and the necessity for investing in a good marketing campaign, and it's
Yeah.
not going to steer you wrong at all. It's one of the best investments you can make.
Okay, okay. And if I
Yeah.
understand correctly, the marketing isn't done as yet. I believe that you're on your way to a book club meeting to.
Yes, I am. Well, the thing is, if you know, so in the publishing industry, typically you have 1 full year, or you should aim for 1 full year of continuous marketing for your book to ensure that you get the best sales. So it has to be just, again, understanding what is required. It's not just publishing the book, it's 3 months prior and then a year after. You need to keep pushing the content, activities, pop-ups, book fests, everywhere that you can get the word seen, the word out, sorry. You
Mm-hmm.
definitely gotta just keep at it for a year. It's hard work, I must say, but it's very fulfilling.
Okay, okay. I mean, for
Yeah.
authors here, I mean, you're hearing it for yourself, so we're not just here for the story, for the questions. You're getting legitimate marketing tips here. So just letting you know. Um,
Yes.
in terms of the book itself, what has the feedback been like from the Caribbean community?
So it's been phenomenal, and I certainly didn't expect it, because when you're writing about an 1800 serial killer and you're from Guyana in South America and slash the Caribbean, you're not expecting anybody to take you seriously, right?
Hmm.
But, from the time I mentioned, well, a lot of people knew that I was writing it for about 11 years. So, those people were super excited to see it come to life. And then when it came to life, and I started, like you said, with the marketing and how I pushed it, and I started to talk about what the book is about, the interest has just been nonstop from the time we launched. We sold out within the first week, and which I did not expect. And so right at home, Guyanese have just, fallen into the book full fledged, all into all the aspects and all the storytelling. And now I'm trying to just break into other markets in the Caribbean, because I really think that it's a good story that could help us to get more of the psychological thriller type genre out of the region, So if it
Yeah.
could encourage somebody to do more of that, help me to write more of those books, I think it's just going to be an amazing opportunity for us to get into, as a region.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, and also members of our followership. Jasmine Payne, Scholar of Suspense. Jasmine,
I like that title.
I think it's only fitting. I think it's only fitting because, I mean, you've employed a lot of effort and research into putting together something that we can just appreciate. I mean, we could debate the
Thank
merits of whether it's factual or not because that's what we're here for, to read. To read. We're here to read.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it was an entertaining and really insightful offering that you gave, and based on the feedback that you described, a lot of persons seem to like it. So,
Yes.
so thanks for your time, and we look forward to hearing more
Thank
about
you so
yourself.
much.
We'll keep our eyes on
You'll
social
see.
media. Hmm.
Please do. You'll see more about Leech, but as well, you will see more about Novel 2, which I'm not telling you what it's about just yet, but stay tuned.
Well, as that's the case, if persons want to get in touch with you or follow more about each, where can we get more information about you, about the book, or where we can purchase a copy?
So the if you're in Guyana, the book is available at the Book Barn, at the Massey Mega Store, as well as Love and Latte Cafe. But otherwise, for now, you can get it on Amazon, both in hard copy or ebook versions. But I do hope to, like I said, expand to Trinidad soon and go to some other Caribbean countries to make it available in some bookstores there. Otherwise, on social media, you can follow me at Jasmine Payne Author on Facebook, or Author Jasmine Payne on TikTok or Instagram.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, there we have it,
All
ladies
right.
and gents. If you want to get your copies, those are the places to check. And if it's you want to get more information about the author, those are the places to check. So again, Miss Payne, thank you very much for your time, and we look
Thanks
forward
so
to
much,
hearing great
Kevin.
things.
Thanks a lot. Looking forward to sharing more with you. Take care.
Okay, you as well. Jasmine proves that Caribbean authors don't need to stay in prescribed lanes, that they can master folklore, poetry, horror, psychological thrillers, and just about any genre they choose. For listeners who want to follow her journey and witness what she creates next, you could follow her on social media and via her email address provided in the show notes. The link to her novel Leech is also provided there as well. Jasmine, thank you for your courage in writing the stories that entertain us and that also represent Guyana in this particular genre, and for showing us that the most compelling monsters are often the most human ones. We can't wait to see what tales you gift us with next.